And action. Yes, this is Patrick Dankwa with my lovely guest, Kaylan, on the human design perspective. Kaylan, how you doing this evening?
Good. I'm so excited to have this conversation. It's been a
Same here.
while, so
It
been
has
excited
been
all
a
day.
while. Thank you. Thank you for making time to be here. It has been a while, and I love connecting with you. And, just for those who don't know, and maybe they do, like on the human design perspective, what we do is we speak to entrepreneurs, creative people, really just people who are kind of going through life and sharing their journey. I honestly believe that, everyone has purpose and everyone is created with purpose. So it's kind of sharing your purpose, sharing how you found your purpose and how, after kind of establishing that, you're sharing that knowledge with other people so that they can be better people, so that they can grow, so that they can learn from our experiences, right? So today we have Kaylan, an intuitive coach, an actress, jack of all trades, sharing her time with us today. So Kaylan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I cannot wait to dive in. I've been thinking about this all day, and I'm like, I can't wait to dive in all these juicy topics here.
Yeah, we're gonna dive in. I'm not sure exactly where to
I feel
go.
like when you and I talk, we always dive in. It's like we don't even just like do the
No
little like
sugarcoating. Right? No
yeah.
sugarcoating. Yeah, and that's what I want to talk about because and I'll pass it back to you too. But like I just got off the phone with another coach, and they were just saying how like they want to show up more authentic. Like there's so much going
Yeah.
on in social media now, and people just want to shoot. She's like, I want to show up more authentic, and I want to also show up more authentic. And I'm just like, how do people? It's like, does it work to be authentic, or is it better to just follow all these trends that are happening in social media right now? And and that's what I'm trying to figure out. And I'll just let's start there. Like for someone like you, like how do you embrace your authenticity? How do you show up authentic when there's pressure to
Yeah.
be something else?
Yeah. I think it's a process to really show up authentically because there's a lot of things that can block you from doing that. Number one, it's typically fear.
Yes.
That's the thing that we always struggle with as entrepreneurs is if I show up authentically, are people going to like me? Are people going to think I'm crazy? Am I going to, attract the wrong
Mm.
people? Or am I going to, just feel inadequate or like I don't have enough knowledge? And so we tend to latch on to things that other people are doing because we
Right.
see it and it works for them. And then it really waters down our authenticity. And so everyone experiences this in the entrepreneurial journey. Like we always are like looking for the newest tip and trick and platform and thing and way to sell. And a lot of the times we just latch on to these things that aren't necessarily going to work for us. And
Right.
so sometimes really finding the authenticity in you is kind of going through trial and error and maybe trying the things that you think are going to work and then really seeing, okay, that's actually not me. That's
Yes.
not
Right.
for me, and that's part of the journey. It's, a lot of what I teach is taking action, and it's imperfect action. So it's not
Mm.
necessarily going to be right the first time, but only through the action is where you get clarity. So,
I love that.
knowing yourself and being authentic just is about peeling away some of the layers that maybe you've built up over the years. So for me, it was being a people pleaser and always wanting to be a chameleon and just showing up in different ways because I had the ability to do that being an actor. And so like I could put on, any message, I can put on any character, but it was the hardest for me to be my own authentic self because it's so vulnerable. And so for me, in my journey as a coach, I've worked for other coaches and I would kind of tap into their energy and I would portray their method and their strategy. And, maybe it wasn't mine, but I could kind of tap into that. And what I found is that it wasn't coming off authentically because, it
Mm.
wasn't me, it wasn't my reality. And when
Right.
I started to share my personal story and journey and be less perfect and more real, that's when people started reaching out to me and being actually attracted to me from the emotion that I was portraying.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
But like, and I guess, and then that's the question too. Like sometimes I get, and then I'll backpedal in a second. But I wanted to ask you this, like, you know, when you were being authentic, that's when you're more visible and you're seen. And the question a lot of people that I work with say, like, how do I show up authentically on social media? How do I share my story? How do I share, how I got here? Because like you said, you have to, there's level of vulnerability there. And if you can get through it, there's so much strength and ownership. But some people are afraid. Any advice for people who struggle with kind of showing up on social media?
Yeah, the more vulnerable you are and the more real you are, the more the right people are attracted to you. So the more that you share about yourself, even if you feel like maybe people don't want to hear about it, and there's so many different ways to do this. But the more you share, the more people identify with you.
I
People
agree.
are attracted to you based on what you're portraying emotionally. People never
Mhm.
remember what you say, but they remember how you make them feel. That's like one of my favorite because it's actually true.
Right.
And in acting, I've always realized that whatever I feel, the audience feels, no matter what. They absorb it. Maybe it's subconscious. Usually it's subconscious, but whatever you're feeling, the people watching you are going to absorb that in some way emotionally because it's energetic. So
Yes.
if you're doing something and it feels out of alignment for you, subconsciously they're going to feel that in some way, shape, or form. They might not know how to put their finger on it, but they're going to feel it. And I
Yes.
notice that when I watch entrepreneurs all the time, that I feel like they're just showing up to show up because they're checking off a box. And I feel that. I'm like, you know what? This person is just going through the motions. And maybe they're tired and they're not feeling it and they show up anyway. And it's okay to do that, but be real. Like maybe talk about what you're going through and how you're going to overcome that.
I love
If
that.
you're having a hard day, talk about it and talk about what you're going to do to overcome that. It doesn't always have to be negative, but people will know something's off. So to me, it's like you always want to let your audience know what's happening. And it doesn't have to be like the nitty-gritty details and all the things, but depending on what you're coaching or teaching or what your business is, because sometimes sharing too much isn't going to help you, but at least you're showing up in an authentic way where you're not just brushing over whatever's going on with you energetically or whatever that is. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I think and I love what you said too, because you said, if you're being inauthentic and you're not in alignment, people can feel it, people can pick up on that. And I think that's the biggest thing. Sometimes we think people see us the way we see ourselves, but that's not necessarily the case. People will see us differently. Someone like you're very intuitive, right? So like it's easy to pick up on those things. And I want to talk about that intuition, like how people can identify their intuition and so it can guide them, because it's a beautiful way to guide you in your life where you're uncertain. And I thought maybe this is a good place to start, letting people know kind of what you do, who you serve,
Yeah.
and we'll start from there and we'll get into that.
Yeah. So I don't think I know that everyone has access to their intuition, but it's about creating awareness around it. So for me, I had these intuitive hits my entire life and I felt it in my body. I could feel it and I didn't really know how to address it, but I would get these feelings all the time and these thoughts that would pop into my mind when I would speak to people.
Was
And
it more mental? Was it emotional? Was it like a sacral? Like where was it for you?
it's a feeling for me. A lot of the times I will feel full body chills or I'll feel kind of that pit in my stomach,
Okay.
or I'll feel it in my throat a lot of the
Yeah.
times. Like I'll feel someone's energy blocked and it, will come up in my throat. Or if it's an energetic block in someone's chakras, like I can feel maybe just that in my body energetically. So I didn't really understand that because, I didn't know why I would always feel certain ways when I would talk to certain people because I'm an empath. So I would take on energy from people, especially when I started coaching. And this is when it really started to kind of like come into awareness for me, is that I would get off calls and I would be like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm drained," or I feel this feeling that wasn't my feeling. And I started to
Mm.
realize like these are not my own feelings. These are actually other people's feelings that I'm taking on. And so
Ooh.
the first part of tapping into your intuition is just the awareness of it. So
Okay.
for certain people, it will show up differently. For me, it's a feeling because I'm an empath and there's different type of empaths, but for me, it's something that I really deeply feel in my body in some way, shape, or form. And it could be, like I said, chills or just a feeling in my stomach or in a different, mostly throat for me for some reason. But yeah, it's just something that I'll feel and then I will get messages that will tell me that something else is underneath what they're telling me. And it'll give me little hints as to what that is. And it'll come up in my own voice, and it just guides me as to what's actually going on with someone. So a lot of the times when I was coaching on business strategy, I would get these feelings, and people were telling me, you know, they couldn't get a result and they were trying this thing over and over again. And in my mind, I'm like, well, it's because of this reason. And
Right.
I wouldn't express it because I thought that it was outside of my scope of, you know, what I was supposed to be doing.
Right.
So a lot of the times I would block myself from those intuitive hits because I didn't feel like it was valid enough, or, you
Okay.
know, I could share that. But
Okay.
then when I started to understand my gifts as an empath and an intuitive coach, then I started with clients that I felt comfortable with, that I knew that were open to these types of things.
Yes.
So I would start to give that feedback, and it would work, and it would just automatically sync. And when I
Okay.
wasn't tapping into that, I would have coaching sessions and it just didn't feel like it was delivering what it needed to deliver, because there was that element that I just wasn't letting myself tap into. And so I was kind of like afraid, and, you know, fear holds you back because, you know, are people going to think I'm crazy that I'm feeling these things? Are they going to judge me? Are they going to think it's not valid, or, you know, it's not concrete enough? Because I'm not really a concrete person. I'm a very obviously abstract person. And
Right.
I've always thought that way. Probably being an actor was one of the, the reasons, you know, excelled in that career. But I am good at figuring out simple strategies as far as being a business coach, like what's going to work for you and how am I going to simplify this for you.
Okay.
But I do think more in terms of, you know, abstract and not black and white. And so it is so dependent on the person and what they're going through, and, you know, their experiences and their niche and all the things. But yeah, so for me, it was just the awareness. And I would start to kind of notate when these feelings would come up. And maybe if I didn't feel comfortable telling them on the session, I would maybe send them a DM or a message and say, you know, after thinking about this, maybe try this, or, you know, and then it would always have more positive feedback for me. So I just started letting myself do it more and more. And the results were just insane from what I was delivering. So, you know, it's just having that awareness and letting yourself lean into it versus push it away.
Okay. Okay.
So
So like accepting it, lean into it. And I guess what I'm trying to figure out too when it comes to intuition, and I feel like I have a little bit, everyone has this intuition,
yes, you
but
do.
sometimes like this gentleman I was talking to today, he's like he allows his mind to dictate and lead the conversation. So it's like he's trying to tap into his intuition. He feels it, whether it's a sacral thing or you said it's a full body thing, but then he gets pulled something else and he listens to that often. And I guess, you know, and I want to hear your perspective, like how would one really start to um, settle into their body, trust it, and lead into their intuitive signs and downloads, and like kind of push out the conditioning. I know with human design, and we can talk about it as well, I talk about tapping into your energy and your energetic aura. But what would you usually say is a good strategy to help people? Because he was so, you know, we had a call this afternoon and he's like, I want to trust my body, but I'm leaning into something else because I feel like I should be doing it.
It's about giving up control, because a lot of people that feel like they want to lead with their head, it's because they feel like they want to put something in a box. And
Right.
so really like releasing that energy of trying to have control over what is going to happen as far as the outcome, but really being more in the process. The more that you lean into the process and are open in the process, the more it just unfolds naturally. The more you
Mm.
come into a situation and think about the result or the outcome and you put it in a box, the more that it's blocking you from actually really tapping into the process of leaning into your feelings and your emotions and things like that. Because I think as humans, we try to automatically make things logical and say, all right,
Right.
go to this call, it's going to be this path, it's going to be this outcome, it's going to be, you know, just this little like map of what's going to happen. And in reality, that never works, because the same thing doesn't work for every person. And you can have, you know, different tools and modalities. Obviously, that's what we do as coaches. We have this toolbox of things, but we have to know when to pull what thing. And so you can only do that by being fully present in the moment. And to be fully present in the moment, you have to let go of control, which is a very hard thing to do.
Yes, it is.
You know, there's a lot of things that I do to really tap into my body. I listen to chakra vibrations. I'm huge into chakras because it's the energetic makeup of your body. I mean, every chakra has its own center of nerves and it has its own brain, basically. Like
Mm.
every chakra is, you know, tapping into different pieces of who you are and how you can, you know, really step into that energy. And so for me, I listen to a lot of chakra frequencies to align my chakras, and I become very aware of how I'm feeling every day when I wake up. I think this is something that every entrepreneur should do. It's like, how am I feeling today? What are the fears that are coming up for me? Um, I'm really big on being aware of what your fears are and bringing them to light, because when you do that, you can actually overcome your fears. So one thing that I started doing a year ago is that, you know, every day as I was coaching and I was having some obstacles, maybe I would just start to notate when these fears are happening. So for me, a huge fear of mine a year ago was just group coaching. Like I used to get so in my head about it, and I only like doing one-on-one, but I didn't like presenting in front of other people because I'm, you know, I'm very introverted as a person. I like one-on-one connection, and so sometimes
Okay.
when I'm in a group of people, I will also take on all those emotions of all those people. So I start to get like a little
Yes. Okay.
yeah, so I become ungrounded. And so like really, you know, notating when those fears are coming up and writing down like, why am I feeling this way?
Hmm.
And then when I would do that, I would just really start to kind of bring light to those fears and they would start to kind of dissolve. And so it was just bringing that to the awareness. And then I would say, okay, well, I really need to ground myself before I go into these calls because I'm feeling ungrounded. I'm feeling like I'm getting energy from all over the place and I'm losing, you know, my intuition and my grounding. And so I would listen to the root chakra, which is really going to ground me in my
Mm.
own, you know, power and awareness and just give me more of that, you know, vibe of just really being in my own space. So those are the things that I would start to do is just really create awareness around how you're feeling.
Okay.
And it, you know, it really comes with time and practice. Like for me, it's, you know, journaling these things. And a lot of the times when I would have these fears that would come up, I didn't even realize I was having them because
Right.
I was blocking them so much. And so like when I would write them down, I would be like, oh wow, that's so interesting that I actually feel that way. Subconscious, and you kind of bury it.
Right. Right.
So when you bring it to light, and then when you also speak to other people about it, that's when it really
It really
dissolves
comes
because
out.
the other people that you speak to about these fears say, yeah, no, that's not that's not valid, or you know, that's not how I feel, or how, you know, you're showing up. When you show up, this is what I see. And a lot of the times
Mm.
people, you know, will just help you dissolve those fears. So really being aware of yourself energetically, you know, I look into chakra vibrations. That's something that I'm like very big into. If there's a day where I feel like, you know, I really need to tap more into speaking my mind and speaking, you know, authentically, I'll listen to the throat chakra frequency because it just helps those, you know, feelings flow out more energetically and more organically. So, you know, it's just really tapping into your own body and your own awareness and writing it down, bringing it to light, releasing it. Like it's just this ongoing process that really never ends. It's just always an evolution. So, you know, fears that existed for me a year ago are dissolved because of doing this. But then, you know,
Okay.
there's also other things now that I'm working on that I'm just like chipping away at all those little layers. So it's just a constant evolution. And the more that you tap into it and the more that you have awareness, the more that you can just take yourself to that next level. I think we forget to become aware of how we're feeling and thinking because we just
Mm.
go, 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 and we do. And then we don't even know what's going on with our bodies and our minds because we're just so, you know, in the action of doing all the things.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're so in the action of doing the things. And when you're in the action of doing the things, you almost get swallowed up in it. And I can testify to it. And I know so many can because you want to produce these results, right? Like I know people use the term hustle and grind all the time, but it's like, we just want the best outcome for ourselves and our family. And we see everyone go, go, go. So we just, okay, I guess this is the way to do it. And, that kind of brings me to the next thing I want to talk about is like, even just this whole, like I see this whole shift right now for a lot of entrepreneurs where they're trying to show up. So they're posting a lot, they're writing a lot, they're trying to figure out how to be present, on these platforms. Social media has kind of taken over. They're doing videos a lot, and some of them are not comfortable even with videos. And I know as an actress and someone who's, specialized in this as well, I was hoping you can kind of lend your expertise, because there's two things that I'm noticing, Kaylan. A, people are not sure how often to show up, on like these social media platforms, but they feel they need to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. And then when it comes to, you talked about fears earlier, like when it comes to showing up, there's a fear around being in front of the camera. There's a fear around talking in front of the camera. There's a feel like I feel like I'm almost nude, so to speak. Like, what do I say? Am I going to get anyone's attention? You're speaking almost to the world. And I wanted you to share kind of, what is the best methodology when it comes to showing up in front of the camera and when it comes to like just posting frequently.
Yeah. The first thing is really tapping into your why, because if you're not clear on why you need to show up, then you're not going to do it and you're going to be very fearful of doing it. So for me, when I first started coaching, I really tapped into what is my mission statement? What is my why behind doing this? My why is to help clients overcome fear, take action, and realize that everything they need to succeed is already within themselves. So for me, my goal every time I show up on camera is to have someone do something that is out of their comfort zone, that is a little bit scary, that's going to get them a different result. So
I like
new
that.
behaviors and new actions get new results. The same behaviors and the same old actions get the same old results. And so every time I show up on camera, I think if I can just impact one person to do something that they've never done before to get a different result, I will be very happy.
I love that.
And when you show up on camera, the thing that I had the hardest time overcoming is realizing that it wasn't really about me. It was really about the person that I'm trying to help get a transformation. And so when you do that and you tap into the why behind what you're doing, you're going to show up because you're going to feel obligated to do what you need to do to create the impact that you want to create. Okay. If you're not dialed into your why and your passion, you're not going to want to show up. So you have to love what you're doing and you have to be excited about it. And you have to want to show up. And I think the only way to do that is to really think about the impact that you're going to make. If you're not showing up, how is anyone ever going to find you?
Right.
No one will find you. If you don't share something vulnerable, then there's a person out there that is going through something similar that, could have learned from you, but didn't because you didn't share that. So the more you share, the more you make a transformation. And, for me, that was like my guiding force, my guiding light of showing up on camera, because I was afraid to show up on camera live as a coach, because as an actor, I had a script my entire life and I never had to say. And so for me, it was all coming from my own voice, which was really vulnerable to do. So I understand that and I've overcome that. That's why I love to help entrepreneurs overcome their fear to show up on camera, because I was terrified of doing it.
Yeah.
And so the strategies that I've developed worked for me and they've worked for many other people that I've worked with. So really tapping into your mission and your why and making it not about you is the thing that will help you mindset wise. I like to really visualize, what I want the outcome to be. Like, what do I want the person to do when they're done watching me? What is the little action that I want them to take? And so for me, that makes me show up more intentionally because I know what the objective is. If you don't know the objective of why you're showing up, then you're not going to really have that impact.
Yes. So, and I love that, because you said, I like to show up with, there's an intention behind you showing up, which means every time I try to do it, there's purpose. I'm not just showing up because it's Wednesday and I'm supposed to do a video on Wednesday.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of following your passion and not a schedule, because when you show up, when you're passionate about something, like the minute you have a thought or an idea, I think you should share it as soon as possible, even if that's you pre-record the video and then you stream it later. But when you catch that inspiration, it's so important to move with it, because it's just going to drive that emotion on camera so much more powerfully than, if it's an idea you've had before and it sits there for a while and it marinates, and then, maybe you're not as passionate about it 3 days from now. So when you have that spark of passion and that intuition to share something, do it right then and there. Like, that's the best time to do it. You definitely want to go live and do video content as much as possible. The more, the better. At least once a week is what I always tell my clients. Like, you have to at least once a week go live.
How powerful do you think that is to gaining one's visibility? Because I know a lot of coaches are like they just stick to maybe a post of something, a picture, or they'll write some content. But how critical do you think is the video to their overall visibility?
It's so crucial, because not only are they going to be more visible to other people, but they're also going to get more confident and build their skill showing up on camera. Part of mastering showing up on camera is repetition. Repetition equals mastery. That's,
yes,
tried and true statement. But the more you do it, the less afraid you get, and the more you become aware. It's all about, like, I feel like the whole theme of this is about awareness. When I first started going live, I would notice my emotions would be very high, and I wouldn't be aware of really kind of what I was saying and what the other people that watching me were saying. And so it was kind of like this experience that almost felt out of body to me. And so I would get off and I'd be like, I don't even know what I just said. Like, I was just, and that was kind of just, that high emotional feeling that I was feeling. But the more that I would do it, the more that fear would start to subside. And I would just become very aware of what I was saying and the feedback that I was getting. And it was just so much more powerful. So really just starting to be able to kind of lean into the fear. I always say that. I say, don't push fear away, because the more you do that, the more you stay stuck in fear. The more that you lean into fear and say, I'm going to be scared as shit when I do this. But the next time I do it, it's going to be a little less scary. And just being aware of fear and kind of like being in the same room with your fear and saying like, hey, I see you, you're there, I'm aware of you, but I'm going to keep going. And it's just going to become more, it's going to become just so much less scary, because you're just welcoming the fear in and not pushing it away. And so that was the thing that I started doing. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to be scared. I'm not going to just, feel like that I'm going to be great, and I'm not going to be scared. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to be scared. And it's okay to be scared, because when we do scary things, that creates expansion. That's the only way to kind of move through to the next level, is to move through whatever block you're feeling.
Yes. No, I got that. Thank you, Kaylan. I love that she's dropping gems and nuggets and all this useful information. And the last thing I want to kind of get into as we talk about it is really, because when I look at it like the beginning of the year, people that make these New Year's resolutions, I feel like people are becoming more aware, like spiritually, from a mindset perspective, intuitively. But like, I want to leave people with just some guidance as the year goes, right? We're still at the beginning of the year. So it's like, if you've noticed the year is not working well for you, you're trying to tap into your intuition, you're trying to really take off from this entrepreneurial journey. Just advice as an intuitive coach, as someone who has so much experience in front of the camera, like what people can start to do, especially if the year hasn't started off the way they wanted to, just some guidance.
Yeah. Fall in love with the process. Fall in love with the journey. So if you're not getting a result that you want, what's the lesson in that? There's always a lesson there. That's always something that's telling you that you need to move to a different direction.
Okay.
Or maybe you're almost in the right direction, but you have to tweak things slightly. And so always look at what this is teaching you, and then continue to refine it and tweak it and move forward. Don't get stagnant because you don't feel like you're getting the result you want right away. You have to continue to take small steps and refine as you go along in order to keep moving forward. So my thing is that I just fall in love with the process. And I think about this with acting, because acting, especially what I do, is on stage and theater, and you do a performance one time, but that's not the last time you do it. Like for me, the show that I'm doing now, there's 20 performances. So the first time I did it,
congratulations, by the way.
So yeah, the first time I did it, the nerves were high, the awareness wasn't fully there. I was kind of like, on the high of the emotion. And the more I did it, the more layers I would add onto the character and the more aware I would become. And, I started to fall in love with the process of it not being perfect every time, but me just getting better and better every single time I did it. And I was having this issue in the rehearsal process because I wanted it to be perfect right away. And I came into rehearsal and I was like, I'm going to know all my lines. I'm going to be perfect the first time I read through this scene. And it was actually blocking me because I wasn't really just falling in love with the process of, okay, I'm starting at square one. I'm going to just have a skeleton and I'm going to add on more layers and layers. And so sometimes in our business, we do that where we're just like, it has to be, I mean, I always talk about this, but it has to be perfect. It has to be this result. It has to be this thing. You have to have fun with the process and fall in love with the journey of it, because otherwise you're just going to stay stuck. And you have to learn and you have to continuously evolve. Your business is always going to evolve. It's a constant evolution. It's never going to be stagnant because it just can't. It's a living, breathing force, your business. It's just always going to evolve. So your process just needs to continue to refine. If you feel like you're hitting a block, really look at, okay, what's the part of this that's working? Like, what about this do I like? What about this do I not like? What do I need to remove? What do I need to just dial in a little bit more, lean into a little bit more? So it's, again, like the awareness, but just falling in love with the process and the journey so that when the outcome happens, it's just so much more joyful because the process was fun and you let go of that control of trying to have this like outcome right away.
I love that. Kaylan, thank you so much. That was powerful. I like that. Fall in love with the process. I need to remember that when it gets hard.
Listen, I tell myself that every single day. Whatever I do, I try to make it fun. If it's like turning on music, if it's, I have a standing desk, and if it's like, standing up, moving, like doing whatever I need to do to make the process fun and enjoyable for myself. Having conversations daily with people that I meet that are just amazing and just people that I never thought I would meet. Just have fun with it, just enjoy it, and just continue to refine it. Like I said, because it will pay off if you're putting in an energy of loving it and enjoying it. And just having that just energetic exchange, it's going to come back to you. It will come back to you. But if you have this block around just having it be a certain way, it does block you. It really does. I've seen it happen time and time again. Yes, I've seen a lot. So
thank you, Kaylan. Kaylan, I want to thank you for doing the show today. Thank you for making time. I have history with you. I know you. We've worked together. You've been a mentor of mine as well. And you've always managed to hold great space and environments. And I've learned from you. So thank you. Thank you for making time for being on the show. And let people know where they can get in touch with you. If they want to tune into and connect with you from the intuitive coach perspective, or even from a confidence in front of the camera perspective, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So I offer coaching on elevating your on-camera performance. So there's a lot of elements that go into that. And then I offer just general intuitive business coaching. So you can reach out to me on Facebook and we can chat and just, see if it's a good fit for you. But yeah, I have a lot of different ways that I can work with entrepreneurs, and just hit me up. We'll have a conversation.
There it is. Thank you, Kaylan. Appreciate you, girl.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.